We're going to create our first chart. I can do it from Add a Chart in the top menu and select the chart I want, or I can go to Insert and select My Chart. In this case, I want to create the scorecard. The scorecards are really good to show KPIs, your key performance indicators. Generally, I start a dashboard with scorecards because they are generally used for your most important metrics. In this case, when I click on the scorecard, at the right is showing me the setup, and this one specifically is showing the metric views. I'm gonna change it and I'm gonna select total users. I have clicked on views and now I can search for my metric. Total users, selected, and now I can see total users in my scorecard. This column here is called the properties column, when I can see the setup and the style. In setup, the first thing that will show is the data source, which is, in this case, is the GA4 Google Merge Shop. I could change it to other data sources, but we are gonna work mainly with this one. These total users, if I go to default date range, are using an auto default date range. What that means is that it's showing the last 28 days. And that's because here I don't have a date range control. If I go to add a control and I add a date range control, then this chart here is gonna show the date range that I have selected in the control. So if I select in my control last month, here, click on apply, you could see that the value in the metric changed, and now I can see total users for the last month, which was March 2024. I will explain this date range control in more detail later on. But for now, let's continue with the scorecard. And let's remember, if the default date range is in auto and I don't have a date range control, then it will be last 28 days for Google Analytics 4. If I have a date range control, it's what it's showing in here. I could also have it as custom. Select custom. And I can also specify if it's last month or fixed, last 7 days, 14, 28, today, yesterday, etc. If it's fixed, I need to select the start date and the end date. I'm gonna cancel and I'm gonna leave it in auto. I can also add a comparison date range. If I click where it says none and none again, it can be fixed. It can be previous period, which would be February. Could be previous year, which would be March 2023. It could be advanced, but that one I will explain when I explain the date range control. And it could be none, have no comparison. In this case, I'm going to select previous period and click on apply. And now we can see a percentage here that shows that this month, in March 2024, I had 12% less users than the previous period, which was February 2024. In addition to this comparison, I could see a sparkline. If I go to setup, back to setup, I can see here sparkline, and in add dimension, I need to add a date dimension, a period dimension. It could be date, day, day of week, hour, month, year. In this case, I'm gonna select date, and it creates a sparkline, which is a trend line where I can see my total users per day. Instead of seeing this trend line, I could see this comparison as progress. If I select show as progress, then my sparkline becomes a bar where I can see at the bottom, I see the total users that I had in the comparison period, during the comparison period, in this case was February 2024. And then the percentage is saying that during March 2024, I achieved 88% of the users that I had during February 2024. This shows like this with a bar when I see it as progress. When I see it as progress, I can also see it compared to a value instead of that compared to that date range. If I click on value and in target value I add 45,000, now my scorecard is showing my users during March 2024 compared to my target value, which was 45,000. So during March 2024, I achieved 105.7% more users than my target value, which was 45,000. If I go to style and I go to hide comparison label and I'm unselected, then I can see what this percentage means. Because otherwise you don't really know what this 45,000 means. It could be your target value or it could be anything. With this label now, I know that my target value is 45,000. That's a comparison with my target value. So it's good to always have a comparison label. And under hide comparison label, I can add a comparison label myself. Instead of saying of target value 45,000, I could just add of target value. And there, it's not showing the 45,000 anymore. If I go back to setup, apart from comparison type value, I could see it as a metric. I select metric, and then I could select a metric, which is showing my target. I don't have any metric showing my targets, so I cannot select any. But if you had one, ideally, you would have one, and then instead of having to manually add 45,000, then you will have a metric that you just need to select in this target metric under comparison type metric, and it will update every month with whatever your target is. For now, I'm gonna go back to value. Let's go to style. In style at the top, I can show the numbers as they are or as compact. As you can see now, it shows 47.5K. I'm gonna leave them as they were. I can also change the colors for when a value increases or decreases. We saw this at the beginning in the first video. I could change at the chart level that the increase change was for it to be red and the decrease change for it to be green, like it would be for some metrics like bounce rate. I'm gonna leave it as it is. When we have missing data, so when there's no data at all, for example, I could be applying a filter here that says that only get those users that come from China, and maybe there are no users from China. So if I had that filter, instead of showing 0, it will show no data. These scorecards would show no data. But if I wanted to show 0, I could change it here and select show 0. I generally choose show 0. I like it better to show 0 than no data. Could also change the labels or how the metric name, value, and comparison are organized. So it could be on the left, centered, or right. I'm gonna leave all centered. I could change the background color, so I could have it in gray. The radius, the border radius, I could change it to 10. Now you can see how it changes. Go back to style. I'm gonna leave the background as white and then the border color as gray. There you go. Go back to style. And at the bottom, you could change the padding. For example, now the padding, the top one, is 8 pixels. I want it to be more, my scorecard, I want it to be more centered vertically, so I'm gonna change it to 16. And now it is more centered vertically. I can also change the padding on the left and the right, and the line height. In progress visual, you can see that it says bar because my progress is being shown as bar. I could change that and change it to circle. And now it doesn't show the target value anymore, it only shows the percentage, and the representation is with a circle. I'm gonna choose bar again. I'm gonna go back to my setup. The comparison type, I'm gonna change it to full stop because I want to see the comparison with the previous period. And now, as you see, the label is showing off target value. What I need to do is go to style, and in comparison label, I'm going to delete what I have. And now I didn't write anything. By default, it's showing off previous month. If I wanted to add anything, I could add anything, but because Looker Studio knows that I'm comparing with the previous month, then when I delete the comparison label, it's to show it changes to of previous month. That's because the hide comparison level is not selected. If it was selected, it would disappear. But it's not selected. I don't want to select it. I want to show the comparison level. That's my scorecard for total users. I want to add a couple more, so I'm going to right click on it and click on duplicate. I want to change this metric, so I want to setup, and instead of total users, I want to change it to engagement rate. I want to see only one decimal, so I go to style, decimal precision 1. And then this one, I'm gonna duplicate it again. And I want to show the purchase conversion rate. And now I have my scorecard with my purchase conversion rate. There is a problem here, and it is that my conversion rate is being shown as a number. And it should be a percentage. This is usually something that I don't explain at the start, but if you're gonna use these data sources in the examples, if you're gonna do them yourself, then it's something that is worth mentioning now. I need to change this purchase conversion rate, the data type, to percentage. For that, I go to Resource, Manage Added Data Sources, Actions Edit, and then I could scroll to my metric, or here in search fields, I can search for purchase. And there I have my purchase conversion rate, and in type, I see that it has number. If I click on number, it allows me to select between numeric number, percent, duration, or currency. In this case, I want numeric percent. I click on finish, close, and now my purchase conversion rate is a percentage in my scorecard, and it will be a percentage as well in other charts. So if you find this issue when you start creating dashboards, always make sure that your metric has the correct type.